Hello everyone, I'm Sophie and I'm currently at Kecara Forest Retreat, Bentong, Malaysia. In the past 3 sessions, I've spoken about who is Buddha, part 1 and part 2, and I've spoken about what is Buddhism, and today I'll be sharing on, is Buddhism a religion? Well, to me, not to me, to Buddhist practitioners, Buddhism is actually not a religion in the sense in which that religion is commonly known as. It is a system where Buddhists take responsibility for themselves, rather than be dependent on or worship or with faith, in a God or a supernatural being. So Buddhism does not demand blind faith of the practitioners. A Buddhist seeks refuge in the Buddha. Why? Because it was he who discovered the path out of suffering. A Buddhist does not seek refuge in the Buddha with the hope that Buddha, according to his, with the hope that he would grant us enlightenment. But in fact, Buddha has actually never given any such guarantee. So let me, instead of looking at me, maybe I'll show you some beautiful pictures of Buddha while I do my sharing. Here is the first picture of Buddha. So it is actually not within the power of Buddha to actually wash away the impurities that, or the bad deeds, or the karma, that of another being. The Buddha is a teacher who teaches the path, and we ourselves are directly responsible for our own purification. Although a Buddhist seeks refuge in the Buddha, he does not give up his freedom of will or thoughts. On the contrary, a Buddhist uses this free will and thoughts to thoroughly examine the Buddha's teachings, understand, and then practice to eventually gain the same qualities of the Buddha himself. The starting point of Buddhism is actually reasoning or understanding. To those who seek the truth, Buddha has said, "Do not accept anything on mere hearsay," which is thinking that thus have we heard it for a long time. Well, for example, the hearsay, that being vegetarian, you will not get enough protein, which is entirely untrue. As found out by nutritionists or scientists, that actually vegetarian gets a lot of protein from beans, and nuts, all sorts. So actually it's not true. But on hearsay, some people may tend to believe that it's true. So Buddha has said, do not accept anything on hearsay. The second, do not accept anything by mere tradition, which is thinking that it is because it was handed down through many generations. Well, one of the tradition that most of us grown up with is that happiness equates to having a good family, good career, or wealth. But I would say that as many of us has found out that having a family will bring a lot of problems, such as providing for the family, and then taking care of the children, sending them off to college, all sorts of things would happen once you have a family. And having the career, even when you have climb up the top of the career path or the ladder, you will have that stress of keeping yourself there, that the competition, you have to be smart enough to think ahead, that sort of thing. And even having wealth, how much, you how much is sufficient, the level of wealth that you have. You'll be constantly seeking to have more and more and more, like having the best car, the best house, the biggest house. At what level would you stop at accumulation? And how much happiness does it bring you, in actual fact? So that is by tradition, that we are led to believe that happiness can be, can be received, from having all this. So Buddha has said, do not accept anything by mere tradition. And Buddha has said, do not accept anything on the account of mere rumors, which is believing what others said without any investigation. Well, that I would say a lot of us would know, like especially listening to gossip, whether the matter may be true or not. So it's like just for an example, let's say there's a rumor of so and so is very unfriendly, but it could, if you were to investigate, it could turn out to be that person could be very shy, and as such, looks standoffish. So do not believe in mere rumors without investigation. Let me go to the next Buddha picture. Right, Buddha has said, do not accept anything just because it accords with your scriptures. Buddha had always maintained that we should always question if we do not understand, or we do not just follow by blind faith. And Buddha has said, do not accept anything by mere presumption. Do not accept anything by mere inference. Do not accept anything by merely considering the reasons, which means that you just have a shallow understanding without actualizing the Buddha's teachings. And do not accept anything merely because it agrees with your preconceived notion. Do not accept anything merely because it seems acceptable. For example, thinking that as a speaker seems to be a good person, his words should be accepted. Well, in the real life, how many cases have we heard in the news that the preacher or the bishop, who holds very high standing, they actually are doing very sinful deeds. So this speaks to, for me, it speaks very clearly of that. Do not just, the speaker seems to be like a good person or good standing, that you accept his word. Always investigate. And do not accept anything thinking that the ascetic is respected by us, therefore that it is right to accept his word. I would say that this is similar to the previous one, where a person seems to be of good standing and we take their word as truth. So the Buddha said, when you know for yourself these things are immoral, these things are blameworthy, these things are censored by the wise, these things, when performed and undertaken, conduce to ruin and sorrow, then indeed do you reject them. So, as Buddha advised, that if you yourself know that it's immoral, or there's something wrong with it, then you should reject them. And when you know for yourself, these things are moral, these things are blameless, these things are praised by the wise, these things, when performed and undertaken, conduce to well-being and happiness, then do you live acting accordingly. So from this you can tell that if you find something that resonates very strongly, that it is correct, it is morally right, or people that has the knowledge praise that it is right, or the actions that has been taken produces positive results, then only you should accept and follow. So these were the words of the Buddha, which is still valid to this day and age. Though there is no blind faith, one might argue whether there is there's any worship of images in Buddhism. So Buddhists do not actually worship or pray to an image expecting worldly or spiritual favors, but we actually pay reverence to the statue or image because it represents the enlightened qualities of the Buddha. And we try to follow Buddha's noble example. So the external object, like the statue of reverence, is not necessary, but it serves actually for practitioner to focus his attention. Those with great visualization, may be able to visualize the Buddha without the image. But there are those who really, can't visualize, so would require the help of the statue or the image for their visualization. It is actually the image of the Buddha is actually as a reminder for ourselves that there is this man, who actually went through the practices and gained enlightenment, and as such, it is possible for ourselves to also follow the path towards enlightenment. So we pay respect to the Buddha in gratitude. The Buddha never expected obeisance, but for his disciple to observe and practice his teachings. The Buddha has said, "He honors me best by practicing my teaching best. He who sees the Dharma sees me." And with that, I will end my sharing today. So, from what I've shared, Buddhism is not a religion because it is a path that we follow according to Buddha's teachings, and we ourselves need to take responsibility for our actions. There's no almighty power that could take away our sins, and there is heaven and hell, but that is due to the deeds that we have done, and that would be the end results. It's not as, and also the results is impermanent, which means there is always a lifespan to that, and it's not a permanent feature that you will be in heaven or in hell. There is also, there is the 6 realms in Buddhism, which is the heaven, and the place where the demigods will reincarnate in, or the human realm, the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, and the hells. So there is 6 realms within samsara, and we, depending on our own deeds, will reincarnate in one of the realms. So we have to take responsibility for our own actions and not on an external factor, like a God that could remove the sins because you believe in him. So we are not a religion in that sense. And thank you very much for sharing your time with me. And I'll end this session with the completion dedication in Tibetan. Jangjub Senjo Rinpoche, Make Panam Geyushi, Ke Panam Pame Payang, Gone Gondo Pewashu, Tony To Rinpoche, Make Panam Geyushi, Ke Panam Pame Payang, Gone Gondo Pewashu, Daso Jini Sapage Wadi, Tantandro Waguna Kampada, Jepa Jesu Nosan Trapai, Tamping Imporin to Sa Se Sho, Ke Wakunto Yandala Madan, Dromecho Kipala No Choche, Satam Langi Yote Razone, Doji Shangi Hopangotus, Ke Wadi, Yoduda, Lamasang Yodrione, Drowa Chika Malupa, De Salago Pasho, Joki Kelpo Sungapa, Josunam Papewala, Geki Samasiwada, Tungi Malu Sangwasho, Dadam Songi Desundan, Drewa Songi Latene, Gewa Losan Rapai, Tampa Yurifa, Gyushi, Ni Modeles Endele, Ni Migunyandeleshi, Ni Sintato Delepa, Kunchusungi Jingilo, Kunchusungi Ngodruso, Kunchusungi Trasi, Sho, Jesunama Kusen Rapting Ching, Nam Katrini Chochuke Fada, Losam Tempe Dromi Sapsungi, Droe Musatatoni, Gyushi, Gangwe Rawe Koe Shinkam Dem, Bendan Dewa Mali Yuine, Cheren Sing One Tensing Get Soi, Shapeshi de Baru Den Gyushi. Home Tompe Ngotro Malupa, Den De Dala Salduso, Kodang Den Palong Chotnam, Kepa Soshik Shukten Sel. Thank you again for joining me, and I'll see you for the next session.